What is up, YouTube? Zuki M1 here, and I am back with a brand new YouTube video. Today we are going to be doing a character analysis on the Tinkerer. Now, just a quick warning before we start this video. This is heavy on the spoiler side for both Marvel's Spider-Man and Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. So if you have not completed either of those games, I highly suggest you watch those games first. Play those games or watch them depending on your situation. I highly suggest you go ahead and get familiar with those first before coming to this video, because we will be talking heavily on the ending of both Marvel's Spider-Man and Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. So with that being said, you have been warned. Now, today we are going to be doing a character worth talking about. This is my video series where we talk about characters in a deep analysis as to why this character was important to the story, what they had to offer for the story, and their strong points and their weak points and things of that nature. So today we're going to be talking about the Tinkerer. She is a character that was introduced in Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. She is the primary love interest of Miles Morales, and she is also the main antagonist, aka the villain of the story. So it is quite the interesting complex, very much a far cry from the last game, Marvel's Spider-Man, which this is a sequel, well, not necessarily a sequel to, but I guess more of a spin-off of. So in that game, the antagonist was Octopus, and he was a mentor slash a teacher for Peter. Right, so you felt the gravity of their relationship based on the fact that Peter had felt the gravity of seeing his teacher slash mentor degrade over time and become this, I guess, this psychotic madman that he had devolved into, which he did not start off as. Right, initially he was a nice, well-caring teacher who cared about humanity and society and other things of that nature, right? So to see him go from that into someone who is by the end of their journey a shadow of of their former self was very hard to swallow. It even caught me off guard. It got me a couple of tears out of me, right, during my playthrough. Now, the reason why I bring up Octopus, aka Dr. Octopus, in comparison, is because he was the comparison point as to what they needed to do for a villain in Miles Morales. So in the Miles Morales story, as I said before, the main antagonist is his best friend slash main love interest and antagonist. So trying to juggle all three of those types of things, you have to make the player want to feel the emotions that are tied with Miles being in love with said character. The reason why it was hard for a lot of us to really get behind the character Finn, though, is because, one, she spent a lot of time off screen. So it's kind of hard to connect to a character that you don't actually get a chance to experience. The times that we do get to experience her, it's a little sour. I'm not gonna lie. There's so she is the overseer of the underground organization called the Underground. So their primary objective was to pretty much do whatever the fuck they want and run the city, and she allowed them to. Right, there were no mechanical machines messing with her brain waves or preventing her from being able to think logically. Right, this was solely her decision to want revenge over helping other people, to the point where she was even willing to sacrifice all of Harlem to exact her revenge. the people that she enlisted to help her fight against Roxxon was people who was hitting up food trucks, literal food trucks for homeless people. Otto Octavius never did that during his time. When he was becoming Dr. Octopus, he strictly kept all his attacks and everything to only focus on Osman and the Oscorp Foundation, because he had a personal vendetta against Osman and his corporation. Same how Finn has a bias towards Roxxon, right? Because they killed her older brother, who was her guardian, Rick, right? So you start to see the similarities between the two characters. Both have a strong connection to the main protagonist. Both play an important role to the main antagonist. Both have a vendetta against an organization in the city that they're protecting, right? And both have to forced to choose between a personal matter or their, I guess, professional matter, which is them being a superhero who is protecting their city, right? So the difference between Otto Octavius is that Otto just focused all of his chaos towards only Oscorp. On top of that, you felt the gravity of his transformation because we saw a lot of it on screen, right? We saw him leave from being the peaceful, nice man that he was to becoming the deranged Otto Octavius, aka Dr. Octopus, by the end of the journey. Whereas with Finn, she was already the Tinkerer when we found out. So there was no build up, there was no tension. And once we find out, right, her reasonings were a little weak, right? With Otto, he lost everything, and he tried to keep going on even when he lost everything to do the right thing. And only when he lost everything, I literally mean everything, from funding to the building that he was working at to even his students and things of that nature, then did he turn to a life of crime to start using that to help him achieve his goals. Whereas the Tinkerer, she immediately turned to the life of crime, did not think twice about it, and did not have any gravity in terms, did not have any downfall or transformation of a character. So it almost seems as if she was just bad by nature in comparison to Otto, who was a good-natured person who became bad. But the flashbacks are intended to show us that she was a good intended person that had a change in circumstances which caused her to transform as a character into somebody who's bad. But I don't know, I feel like that's just not doing the character justice. If you wanted us to feel sorry for Finn, or at least sympathize with Finn, you had to give us a little bit more than her wanting a revenge for her brother, especially seeing how her brother was able to sacrifice himself for a noble cause to try to prevent the new form from spreading, right? She wanted to spread the news about Roxxon, but instead of calling all the superheroes that's literally in your city, you got the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, like the X-Men. You have so many people you could have had relied on, and instead of her trying to use any of those people, she decided to bring it into her own hand and use a villainous group who are willing to steal food from homeless people to get her plans into motion. Me, myself, cannot agree with those types of methods to go about trying to exact your revenge if you want to be seen as a redeemable character. Because by the end of the story, she is apologetic, and they try to give us something to redeem her character. Whereas with Otto Octavius, by the end of his journey, we're left feeling very sad because that's the transformation as to who he became by the end of his journey. Whereas in the Miles Morales expansion, you see that Finn has, I guess, quote unquote transformation. She started off as a bad person who wants to see the destruction of Roxxon and see the destruction of Harlem I mean, well, not necessarily see the destruction of Harlem, but didn't care about the destruction of Harlem if it meant getting her revenge on Roxanne, right? So she's willing to do all of this to exact her revenge on these characters and on this organization, and there isn't any type of, I guess, gravity to what she did, right? So when she, by the end of the journey, when she sacrifices herself, there's no real weight to it, right? The person who feels the most impact from it, honestly, is Miles, because again, that is his love interest, somebody that he could have saw himself with and that he wanted to be able to build something more with, because, you know, she sacrifices herself to be able to save the city. It you know, it changes Miles and helps him develop more as a character. So overall, I guess it served as a purpose to help Miles grow and mature as a superhero. But anything more than that is not exactly there. It was missed, right? The character just wasn't that good of a character. One of the things that happens in the story, which really did upset me during my playthrough, was the fact that Finn allows Miles to enter the underground, right? The underground is a criminal organization. Miles is a good, honest, hardworking black man in America that works in, that is in New York, right? One of the cities that is known for stops and frisks, literally everything designed to set him up for failure, right? You as his friend should have an interest in not wanting him to be involved in that type of lifestyle. And yet the moment he mentions, hey, I want to be a part of the gang, she, without hesitation, accepts his offer and allows him to join the underground, and did not even hesitate, right? She didn't think about his future. She didn't think about what that would have done to him and his mother or anything like that, right? The repercussions that would have happened if he was just a normal foot soldier, right? To me, I felt like she looked at him as being expendable, somebody that she could just use for the moment and then get rid of if necessary, right? And honestly, is that really a good friend or even really a good love interest? Who's to say? I personally think that that's a bad friend and or bad love interest if they're willing to allow you to make bad decisions for their sake, right? So with that being said, right, the character just doesn't hold up in comparison to Octavius, who was very caring and very loving of Peter all the way up until the very end of the story. At the very end, when we get to the end of Octavius' story, you feel everything, the connection between these two. It was so heavy, right? You felt the burden that Peter had to bear with leaving his mentor on the ground, groveling at his feet, begging him to help him out of the situation that he was in. That was a very good way to establish an antagonist and a villain to modern day superhero stories, right? It's not just, oh, I'm bad just to be bad. It was a bad character because of circumstances, not because of choice. And I get that that's what they were intending for Finn, but it almost felt like she chose to be bad because she wanted to be bad, whereas Octavius was forced to be bad because that's all he had. But that's all I have for you guys in today's video. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that Finn was a good character or a good villain at that, right? Or do you think I'm being too harsh on the character? Let me know in the comment section below. This is one of a video series that I do on my channel. So if you guys did find this interesting, please heavily consider hitting the like and subscribe button. But this has been Zukium1, and I hope you guys have a great morning, great evening, great afternoon, and great night. But I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.